Oh, I didn't see you there. I binged the original Fable series while hunkered down with no power in a winter storm. I've also been climbing one of the most treacherous peaks in all of gaming, and I'm ready to podcast about it. So, grab an ice cold one with the boys, because this is the Game or Die podcast. Cheers. Hey, welcome in everyone to the Game or Die podcast. My name is Ryan Moore, and tonight we're going to be talking about some video games. Like I said in the intro, basically, we had a crazy winter storm here in Tennessee to the point where it knocked down power for thousands of houses for several days. We actually had no power for 6.5 days, and it sucked, mostly because it was so stinking cold. It's been in the teens at some point, very, very cold, and it just was really rough. And the worst part about it is that I wasn't able to play video games and stream them like I normally do. However, thank God for the Stream Deck and portable generators, because we were able to power our devices. We did have internet thanks to Starlink as well. But man, it was a rough couple of weeks. So while we were kind of just not doing anything other than trying to stay alive and stay warm, basically, I decided to play the Fable series. I haven't played it since they came out. The first one on the original Xbox back in 2004, and then we got Fable 2 in 2008 on the Xbox 360, and then Fable 3, and that's kind of where I stopped playing. I know that there was like a Kinect game that was being worked on, there was Fable Legends, and a couple other like offshoots, but nothing really major. So I really only am familiar with the core main series of Fable 1, 2, and 3. And I've played all of them. I beat Fable 1, I beat Fable 2 back in the day, but I never actually finished Fable 3. For one reason or another, I just never finished it. So going back to it, it's been a real crazy journey. I also have played a game called Karen, which is a rock climbing game or a mountain climbing game. Super cool. And then we'll talk about a couple other things that I've been doing on the channel. But let's just dive right into Fable, because Fable is one of those games that holds a special place in my heart. Fable 1 came out on the original Xbox, and back in the day with Peter Molyneux, he was the head of Lionhead Studios or Games, and they were well known in the industry for quite a while, but Peter Molyneux has been kind of branded the industry liar. And I don't know why specifically, but one of those times that I do remember him being just in the news was always because he had such a lofty goals for his games. And he would always talk so passionately and so big about these games. But unfortunately, it seems like a lot of the promises he made to gamers about these games and what they would do just never came to fruition. So unfortunately, a lot of people kind of just dogpiled on him over the years. And after he left and started doing, after Lionhead Studios like got disbanded and he left, he really hasn't been in the limelight as of the last like 10, 15 years or so. So it's kind of weird because he was such a big industry leader for so long and then just kind of disappeared. But let's talk about Fable. When this game came out, I was a massive Xbox fan. And you know me, I really don't prescribe to the whole console war or anything like that. I just knew that the Xbox was the most powerful system at the time. It had the best hardware, it had the best graphics, and there was a lot of exclusive games that were like very much in my wheelhouse. Felt like they were designed for me. So I was really interested in this game when it came out, but I didn't know too much about it. I knew that choices mattered in the game, and it was very similar to BioWare's Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, where you could be either good or a bad Jedi, right? But this kind of broke the mold open in way, way bigger ways than just being a good or bad Jedi. Your choices mattered so much in this game because every time you would do a quest, every time you would help someone or do something in the world, your alliance kind of started shifting and people would start noticing you differently, whether you were good or bad. Your choices affected your character and the world around you. And it was really, really cool. So, before we kind of get into the mechanics of the game and everything, I always like telling the story about how I got the game. Now, like I said, I wasn't really paying too much attention to the game itself, but my best friend at the time owned the game store that I ended up owning, which was called Games for You. And when he came by my house one day, because it was right around my birthday, he said, "Hey, is there anything you want for your birthday?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm really excited about Fable." And he's like, "Well, I'm going to the distributor up in LA," and we lived fairly close to LA, around an hour and a half, 2 hours, maybe 4 hours if there was traffic, which there always is. But it wasn't too far away. It was an afternoon drive. So what we did is we actually hopped in the car, drove to the distributor, and basically just got the game like several days before it came out. He dropped me off at my house and he said, "Happy birthday." And he just gave me a free game. Like, pretty rad, right? And so I was able to play that game several days early. And man, I just had a blast with the game. I did not know what I was getting myself into with it because it really did just open up this whole fantasy world. I was never a big fantasy guy. I never got into like orcs and anything like that. I was mostly like medieval, like real world medieval storytelling, not fantasy. And so I really did enjoy having this more orc related and other type of weird characters show up. Balverines is one of the series staples where they're kind of like werewolves. So it was really, really fun. I just enjoyed the crap out of it, to be honest. And really, the one of the biggest things about the game is that it allows you to do whatever you want. So when you do become good or you choose to become bad, your choices affect everyone around you. When you become bad, people get scared of you. People cower in fear and they don't want to talk to you and they run away. And if you do good, then yeah, you're praised throughout the city. When people come up running to you going, "Oh, the hero of Albion." And it is just so much fun. So let's kind of get into the game itself. You start out as this kid going around the town and trying to scrum up some gold for your sister's birthday. You're trying to buy her a birthday present. So it immediately starts you on the task of completing quests and giving you options. So you walk around and you try and help 5 different people around the town. And you're just like this little kid, like 6 to 8 years old. And you're trying to do good because your dad says at the very beginning, "Hey, you need to buy your sister a birthday present. I'll give you 5 gold if you help 5 people around the town and I hear about it." So you walk around and there's this girl who lost her teddy bear. And so you go and try and find it. But there's a bully who has the teddy bear and you can either punish him or you can be mean and, your choices matter. There's another character like hidden behind a shop and it's this guy cheating on his wife. He's in an adulterous relationship with this mistress, and you find out about him, and he says, "Hey, don't tell my wife. I'll give you a gold coin if you don't tell my wife." Or you can go tell his wife at the bar, and she'll go and try and find him and get him in trouble. It's really, really interesting, especially back in the time frame of when this game came out. Like I said, Peter Molyneux made these lofty expectations for this game, but honestly, I think he pretty much hit the mark on most of them. So you're getting your birthday present for your sister, and then you give it to her, and then a cutscene happens. And the cutscene basically shows that your town gets ransacked by bandits. Your sister is killed, your father and mother is killed, and your whole town is burned to the ground. So you're an orphan. And the reason why you are saved is because this mage pops out of like a portal and saves you at the very last second and like pulls you in. And then he says, hey, we're in this sanctuary, academy, the Hero Academy, and you're going to learn to become a hero. So time progresses a little bit and you become like a young adult. And when you start off, you have like a classmate who is kind of like your friend, but also friendly competition. And so you go around kind of doing some little tutorials. And then time progresses again and you're a little bit older. Now you're about to graduate and you got to do the competition shooting. You got to do the competition melee challenges. You got to do the competition magic challenges to graduate and become a new hero for the world of Albion. And man, dude, it kind of just starts funneling you into these really fun little quests that are very linear nowadays. But when the game came out, it was huge. It was massive. And it felt like the entire world of Albion was at your fingertips and you could go wherever you want, whenever you want. But coming back to it in 2026, man, it is very linear in this first game. But it still has all those little breadcrumb pieces that allow you to see where the series went and trailing it back to its beginnings, man. It's a marvel. It's a feat of game design. I loved it so, so much. And it was really fun too, because I got to play it with my wife. Over the last couple of years, because I've been streaming, I mainly sit in the studio by myself and stream video games. So being able to sit on the bed and just play this game with her watching was really, really fun. We haven't done that in a while. So I really enjoyed that. Now, as you progress through the story of Fable, your actions matter, like I said. So you can choose to be good, you can choose to be bad. And when you choose one of those paths, your character starts changing. And that's another big thing about the game. Your characteristics of your face are changed depending on if you use a lot of magic or not. You start seeing a lot of these lines in your face from magic use. They kind of almost look like Tron lines. Or if you suck at combat and you get hit a lot, you get battle scars all over your face, and people will start commenting, ooh, you've got a face only a mother could love. Oh man, you must really suck at fighting because you're all scarred up. And then also, if you are good or bad, you get a halo. If you are good, or if you're in Bad Alliance, you get devil horns on your head. And man, it is just so, so cool to see these little things that, dude, I don't know what game does that anymore. No game changes your appearance as you play, depending on the choices you make. And that should be like a staple of games at this point. This game is over 20 years old, and we don't have anything like it that I can think of. So I always thought that was really interesting, and it's definitely novel again compared to the modern games of our time in 2026. Now, the ending kind of came out of nowhere for me. It really did feel like I was progressing. I was kind of starting to see where the story was going, and it kind of funneled me into the end game. And I do remember the end game because it was something that, you're ultimately making a choice of saving this person or whatever, and then the credits are supposed to roll. But when we were playing it, the credits didn't roll. And I was like, what's going on here? And the reason why is because I was playing Fable Anniversary, which came out in 2014. So 10 years after the original game came out. Now, I never played the Fable Anniversary game before. I own it on Steam because I own like almost 3,000 games on Steam. So like there's just a ton of games that I've never played before. But Fable, for whatever reason, they really did this weird thing back in the day. and I miss it. We used to get what are called expansion packs, or games like DLC that were standalone. And so Fable originally came out on the Xbox. And then I think a couple years later, they added to the game in its own standalone expansion pack called The Lost Chapters. And I've owned that game multiple times. I own the original Xbox copy. I own it on Steam, but I never played through it. And the reason why is because I think I started it once, maybe in 2005 or 6 or something like that, but I never actually I never played through it. I played maybe like 15 minutes of it and then just forgot it even existed. So I was really excited to kind of try and see what was going on with this one. Fable Anniversary is basically where it's the original Fable game, all in modern, quote unquote, remastered. But it also tacks on the DLC, the expansion pack, the Lost Chapters stuff. And so I played through that and the credits didn't roll and it just sent me right into that new thing saying, hey, the bad guy that you just defeated is technically not dead. Go and do this quest to actually kill him. And I was like, wait, what? So it was really interesting to not only play this game that I beat over 20 years ago, but then have a new part of that story that I never saw and be able to fully complete the game. So that was really, really fun. And it's a fairly long game. You can do much more side questing. You can really dive deep into that game. And I don't do that most of the time. I usually stick to the main story quest and maybe a handful to 2 handfuls of side quests, depending on how good the side quests are. But one of the really cool things, and the one that I kind of just put as my main priority for a while, was the adulting part of the game, where you can actually get married. And back in the day when I was a young lad, marriage was kind of like a main ultimate goal for me. And so being able to see that and do that in a video game was actually really, really cool. So I remember, trying to figure out which lady that I wanted to woo, and the mechanic of wooing a lady or the townspeople and just kind of, emoting is actually really interesting because I'm not a big fan of that in modern gaming. I think emotes, especially dance emotes, are just one of the dumbest things in all of video game history. I hate it. When you see like people playing World of Warcraft and they're all just dancing there, or you're watching people buy, thousands of dollars worth of dance emotes in Fortnite. Like, I don't want to see my character do the Carlton dance from Fresh Prince in my video game. It immediately takes me out of it, especially if you're spending money on it, right? So I despise that. But with Fable, it allows you to actually play through the game and use those emotes as a main core mechanic to do things in the game. It is not just cosmetic. And I think that's one of my biggest issues with a lot of games nowadays, is that the cosmetic issue. I don't care if it looks cool. I want it to do something. And so having these emotes where you can do hero poses and you can flirt and you can belch or fart, like that is something that I would never, ever, ever care about in a game. But because they actually allow you to use it in certain ways to intimidate characters or to flirt with characters and get them to marry you, like, I thought that was really cool. So my wife and I were walking around town, and then there was this one lady who kind of had a tiny little heart above her head. So I started, doing the hero pose and flirting with her. And that little heart above her head grew and grew and grew 3 sizes that day. And by the end of the day, she was like super into me. And she's like, oh, I would love to marry you, but I need a wedding ring. So you can go find one, you can buy one and purchase one from the shop. And once you buy a wedding ring for a character, you give it to them and then they'll marry you. And then you get to buy houses. That's one of the cool things about the game too, is not only is the currency or the gold used to purchase items, like health potions and, ammo or whatever. But it's also allowing you to purchase property. And when you purchase property, you can actually buy a house and live in it, or you can buy a house and rent it out. And you can become like this slumlord almost, technically a landlord, but you can kind of be a jerk about it because you can actually buy a bunch of houses in town and rent them all out. And if you kind of raise the rent a little bit too high, people are going to start getting mad about it, right? Or if you don't have the quality of the house, the items like the bed and the bookshelves and all that stuff, if it kind of sucks and you don't spend enough money on upkeep, like the townspeople are going to be mad. But if you give them really good rent and you give them really good quality houses, like people are going to still love you and say thank you for, owning this house. It's just super cool. You don't see stuff like that. Not back then, and you don't really see it now, right? So, man, I loved this game so much. And it was such a blast from the past to be able to go back 20 years prior and see where this series started again for the first time, basically. Because it was funny. I kept telling my wife, I don't remember this. I don't remember this. And I have a pretty good memory. I remember most things, but when it's so long, I finally start forgetting a lot of the things in the game. And then, I can replay it. But I have a real hard time replaying games. So I'm glad that I waited this long to be able to replay the original Fable. And yeah, it's a great story. It's a very cheap game. It looks really good. I will say the combat is a little bit rough. Not that it didn't age poorly or anything like that, but it definitely had, and my wife even picked up on it. She was noticing that I was struggling with a lot of combat where I had like 4 or 5 characters around me, and every time I would attack, they would block. Even in the middle of them swinging, and I would swing, I should be able to go through that animation and hit them. But then they would auto block. And there was like one character for like 45 seconds, no matter what I did, they would just automatically block the attack. No matter how far away or how close or in the middle of an animation I was, like they would just always automatically block. And it was really frustrating. And so she even looked it up and she's like, yeah, that's kind of just how it is. But there are a couple different ways around it, especially if you use the dodge mechanic to kind of roll backwards or around, and then you can come up from behind and attack the enemy. It definitely helps a lot. So it's really cool. And there's this whole thing about this middle section of the game where you become like an arena champion. And so you just do these fights and it's just a bunch of combat over and over again. And it's just a lot of fun. I remember the arena, but I actually remember it from the second game. So let's go ahead and talk about Fable 2. So Fable 2 kind of ups the ante. And this is the one that I probably remember most, mostly because I played through it all at a very weird time in my life. Not bad weird, just different. I was living in Colorado at the time. This game came out in 2008 on the Xbox 360. And I remember playing this game during Christmas time. I think like Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. I get this and A World of Keflings, A Kingdom for Keflings, confused every once in a while because I played them basically at the same exact time. And I was alone. I lived 1,200 miles from the nearest person I knew on the face of the earth. Like, it was really tough for me in that stage of my life. But I had Fable 2. And so Fable, was on the original Xbox. But then when Fable 2 came out, it was on the Xbox 360. And man, that jump in graphical quality from original 480p to 720p or 1080i or 1080p, high def gaming just looks so incredible. It was such a game changer. And the game itself looks phenomenal. However, I will say, it's number one, locked to the Xbox 360. I have no idea why this is such a beloved game in a beloved franchise, but it is locked to the Xbox 360, which is a 20-year-old console. It is insane, especially the fact that they're making a new one and they've been making a new Fable for, like 7 or 8 years now, and it's still not out. And we still don't have a proper modern way to play Fable 2 other than backwards compatibility. So I own Fable. I own Fable Lost Chapters. I own Fable Anniversary Edition. And I own Fable 3 all on Steam. But I can't play Fable 2 on Steam. So this is kind of where it got really weird. We had to load up the Xbox, download the Fable 2 game, and play Fable 2 on the Xbox Series S through backwards compatibility. And it wasn't too bad, honestly. Like, it wasn't too bad of an experience having to do that. Backwards compatibility totally works very, very fine. But it was just kind of a little bit of a bummer. The other thing too is that there's some DLC that I never bought. I bought the game and the DLC didn't exist when the game came out. So, like DLC does nowadays, where you have like 5 different DLC drops on day one, but this wasn't the case. Instead, it was DLC that came out like a year or two after or something like that, and I was already on to many other games by the time the DLC dropped, so I never bought it. So I was kind of bummed that I didn't want to spend like $20 on, 15-year-old DLC or whatever, or almost 20 years old. I think it came out in 2009, so I mean, we're fairly close, at least 15 plus years of DLC, so I just didn't want to buy that. However, the game itself is phenomenal. The storytelling is ramped way up. The graphical look and capability of the game, how smoothly it runs, very little slowdown. The voice acting is top notch. There's a ton more voices, and the look of the game is really cool. However, and the movement too. The movement's very, very fluid. However, with a lot of the Xbox titles, there is this thing called bloom. And you'll know it as soon as you see it in any Xbox game. On the 360, this hardware bloom was cranked up so high on pretty much all those original series games. So you have this really bright yellow tint to pretty much everything. Everything glows with this super bright yellowish orange glow, and it's very distracting. And it also has this weird thing that was a very common thing back in the day with motion blurring, where there's this ghosting and motion blurring effect, and it just super distracted me. It actually makes the game very hard to play. I'm a PC gamer first and foremost, so I turn off motion blur and chromatic aberration and film grain and all those post-processing filters immediately whenever I start a game. That is the first thing I turn off, is all that garbage. But you can't do that on console games, which is one of the reasons why I dislike playing on consoles so much. I'll play it for exclusives, and sometimes I just have to deal with it. But man, it's so distracting. So I had a really good time with Fable 2. The storyline is really interesting because you start off again as a very young kid, and your sister and you are now together as orphans. Your parents are just straight up dead, and you are living on the streets of Albion. But you're fairly well known. And when you start going through the city at the very beginning, your character picks up this dog that, one of the bully kids are beating on. And this dog attaches itself to you and starts helping you out through the very beginning of the game. And it's really fun. Excuse me. It's really, really fun. So when I start advancing in age, there's this whole storyline about this lord of the castle, the king of Albion. I think he's the king, or he's like the ruler of the town of Bowerstone. his wife and kid die. He kind of goes into solitude. He finds out that these kids make a wish or something with this magical box and invites them to his palace. And in the middle of this palace tour, he traps them and says, your bloodline is, tainted or, should be mine or whatever. And he kills the kids, or so he thinks. He shoots the sister. And then you get to choose between a boy or a girl that as you play with. So I obviously chose a boy. And you get shot out of the window. Like, you get shot and you fall out of the window and you land, on the ground, and everyone thinks you're dead, but you get saved and you become a man and you become this gypsy adventurer hero that now goes off and saves the world. And it's very similar in its storytelling mechanics and gameplay, obviously. It's a true sequel where it takes all the good stuff about the original game and then just ramps it up. The one super cool thing that I really love is the dog mechanic. Like, you get this companion of this dog that goes with you throughout your life, and not only does he help you, but he attacks characters or enemies in combat, but he also finds treasure around the world. So as you're exploring, like I said, Fable 1's very linear. Fable 2, on the other hand, is much more open. And with the graphical bloom and stuff like that and motion blur, I didn't explore as much as I wanted to because it just didn't feel very good. And it was very hard for me to focus on stuff. So the more tighter knit areas with less motion blur, less bloom, really definitely were able to be easier for me to see and navigate. But when you're dealing with the dog sniffs around, and whenever you're close to some sort of buried treasure or treasure chest in the world, he'll start barking, and there's a little notification above his head, and then you can go and follow him, and you can either find the treasure chest, or he'll point to a spot on the ground and it says dig, so you can take a little shovel and start digging out. It's really, really fun. And you'll find all these treasures. But I think one of the other super interesting mechanics is now you're able to do jobs. You're able to play pub games. And there was some mini games in the first game. But this one was really interesting because before the game came out, before Fable 2 came out, they released this weird Xbox Live Arcade game. And if you remember, back in the early days of Xbox 360, they really pushed forward this Xbox Live Arcade system, where it was just downloadable indie games. That's really what it was. It was a lot of indie games, a lot of downloadable games, but they called it Xbox Live Arcade. That was their branding for it. And with Fable 2, they did this small mini game collection, kind of like WarioWare, let's say. But it was all the pub games that you would play. Anytime you go into a bar or a pub in the game, because it's all British and British humor, you can sit down and play a bunch of little mini games, poker, blackjack, but they also have liar's dice and a bunch of other things too that you can play. And I didn't do that this time around. I didn't really care. I don't care about mini games. But back then it was very novel. So I remember when that game came out, when the mini game collection on Xbox Live Arcade came out, it allowed you to play that game and accrue a bunch of gold and money, and that save would transfer into the real Fable 2 experience. And that was really, really cool. However, that's all Xbox Live services that don't exist anymore. And this is such a big problem with game preservation. There's a treasure chest in the kind of little main hub area where your characters all gather together and, try and save the world, like your war room, let's say. And there's this chest that you walk up to, you push A to open it, and it says, connect to Xbox Live Arcade to download previously saved, or transfer saves from, other previous Fable games, or go to fable2.com to find out about more information. And clearly that website doesn't even exist anymore. Like, all these little things that are all online don't exist anymore. You can't ever use them. The game is technically kind of broken, right? And it will never be fixed. So it's such a weird thing that developers and publishers just allow these things to happen without ever creating certain backdoors to just either remove that completely or allow it so that you can connect to it later on in the future. Like, there's zero future planning or future proofing in the gaming industry. It's really, really bizarre and strange. I know I'm getting off on a tangent, but I did want to talk about that because it was something that I thought was really interesting / funny / just terribly sad. But when you play Fable 2, it allows you to accrue a ton more money. It allows you to do the mini games. It allows you to get jobs. And this is also another thing that I really did a lot in the game, where you start with like axe cutting or wood cutting. You pick up an axe and you do this just very quick little quick time mini game, and you do it over and over and over again, and you don't fail it, you don't mess up, and you'll just accrue a ton of money. So while we were, in this massive multi-day, nearly a week power outage, at the time, like when my wife would go to bed, I'm like, dude, I have literally nothing else to do but play this game. So I'll just sit here and do this mini game for like half an hour. And I would just accrue a crap ton of money in that, to the point where you level up your skill and you get a little bit better. You get a little bit more better gold multiplier. But man, it is such a time sink, and it's a real waste of time. If you have nothing else better to do, it's fine. But if you really just want to play the game, man, it's not worth it at all. What is worth it is also being able to buy shops and stalls and businesses and houses. And when you do that, not only can you crank up the rent or lower the prices or crank up the prices, and people will, again, notice you, all the townspeople will notice you, but you can also turn the game off, advance time in the real world, come back to it, and you'll still continue to make money. That was another big thing about the game, is you were able to buy and purchase, like, let's say 5 houses, rent them out, and that rent should be coming every 5 minutes. You'll get, 60 gold every 5 minutes for a couple houses being rented out. But you can turn the game off and wait a week, come back in real world time, wait a week to play the game, come back, and that gold has continually been advanced. So every 5 minutes in real world time, no matter if the game is running or not, you are continually making gold. And it is so cool to be able to turn the game on and a week later go, oh crap, I have 160,000 gold that I didn't even do anything about. Like, I didn't do a quest, I didn't find it, it just came to me because I owned all these properties, and that little timer was just ticking throughout the entire game. I love it. It's so cool. However, this is a little minor nitpick. You will notice that every 5 minutes, a little bing gold piece and number will pop up on your above your head in your character, and it's just kind of a little distracting. You're exploring and you go, oh, yep, I got more gold. Oh, yep, I'm doing this crazy battle and I see that I got my rent after 5 minutes. Oh, it's been another 5 minutes. Oh, it's been another 5 minutes. So there's this constant, like, little notification of, hey, it's been another 5 minutes. Hey, you got a little bit more gold. And during the downtime when you're exploring or whatever, that's fine. But in the middle of a battle, in the middle of a cutscene, in the middle of something, you don't want to see that. So it just kind of is a little tiny minor nitpick. You can also get married, which again I did, and we found a really nice bar. Oh, so here's a little tiny bit of a spoiler for Fable 2. There's this quest early on in the game where a ghost contracts you to find his like fiance, and he was left at the altar and he killed himself. So he wants you to find his fiance who left him at the altar, seduce her, and then leave her at the very end. Like when you're right about to get married, say, hand this ghost note to her that the ghost wrote saying, I want you to feel the shame that I felt. I hate you. I never love you. I hope you die. Like crazy weird stuff that you're supposed to like hand this nice, sweet little innocent girl. And she's supposed to kill herself. But again, because Fable is all about choices, you can either do that and be bad and evil, or you can be good and say, or not give her the note, and you seduce her, and then you can end up marrying her, which is what I did. So I took this quest that this ghost said, this chick left me at the altar. I was so distraught that I killed myself, and I want you to seduce her and woo her. And then as soon as she's ready to marry you, as soon as she's just fallen head over heels in love with you, I want you to tell her that you hate her. And you go, nah. So that's what I did. I seduced her. I wooed her. I was ready to marry her. And then I could have given her the note and made her kill herself, or I decided to just not do the note and say, I love you, and then propose marriage. And then we got married. We bought a house right next to the bar that she worked at and then filled it with a bunch of like luxury items. And then you can have a kid. You can have a child. I can't remember if you can do it in one. I don't think you can, or I don't think I did, at least in one. But in Fable 2, you can have a kid. So you learn different emotes, not only to flirt and woo, but you can also, hey, come back to my place. So that was kind of fun. And then there's this little tiny cutscene that says, hey, you got a child. And then you can bring the child toys. You can, make goofy faces and make the child laugh and love you. And then as you progress through the story, your kid actually ages a little bit. So they're in a little baby, bassinet or whatever for, a certain amount of time. And then when the storyline progresses and you're gone for a while and you come back, your kid has grown up a little bit. And it's funny too, because your wife will notice and she says, oh my gosh, please don't ever leave me again. I thought you were dead and blah, blah, blah. Or, hey, you were gone for a while. Can you not leave so often? And you have to manage the relationship. And that's what I remember most fondly about that whole part of the game, is really trying to make sure that your spouse is happy. So you can give them some sort of budget or allowance for the household so that they don't feel like they're just sitting at home and starving to death and have nothing to do. You can give them a certain amount of money. In the very beginning, when we got married, I didn't have a whole lot. And I didn't have a whole lot until about a third of the way through the game, or 2/3 of the way through the game. So the budget was fairly low. And honestly, in real world application, the budget doesn't really do anything other than a happiness meter, as far as I could tell. So giving them 75 gold as the budget versus 100 gold didn't really do anything. But when I had enough money where I'm getting, 60,000 gold every 5 minutes, I can kind of splurge and say, hey, your budget is $200 or 500 or 1,000 or whatever. And again, their happiness meter is already full. Their everything meter is already full. They're already, in love with me, have a kid and have a family, have a house, have every luxury item. There's nowhere else to go with that. So like once you kind of max everything out, it's not really that big of a deal, but it's still cool, right? It's still a mechanic that you just do not see in video games anymore. So I really did love that. And I thought just the dog mechanic again was just so fun, so special. And I remember, like, as soon as the dog character like shows up, I turned to my wife and I was like, "Oh, that's right. I forgot about this. This is so cool. The dog is your companion throughout the entire game." And I've learned this about myself over the last handful of years. I really don't like being alone in video games. I like playing games alone just fine. I do like playing video games with other people though, like talking to other people while I'm playing a game. But in the game, I don't like being alone. I don't like exploring dungeons alone. I don't like doing, dungeon crawls or boss battles alone as a sole only character. I like having a party system. I like having some sort of companion next to me so I don't feel like I'm tackling this big objective by myself. There's always some little audio clip or quip that the character can say, so I always really like that. And having that dog character, man, it just makes such a big difference. So I think that's good for the Fable 2 talk. So the third game in the series, Fable 3, came out like in 2011. So 2004 to 2008, Fable 1 to Fable 2. Fable 2 to Fable 3 is 2008 to 2011, I believe. And that was also a Xbox 360 game. So with Fable 3, this is the game that I actually never finished. And the reason why is because this is when I had my game store. So I didn't have all that much time to play every video game known to man. I did play a lot of games at the game store and I had a ton of fun, but I was working, right? I was doing all the stuff that you do with a store instead of just playing games. So some games where I was enjoying it, but I didn't really care all that much, kind of just got dropped. Fable 3 was kind of one of those games. Also, it's because the game is actually structured very weirdly from what I remember. The first quarter of the game is normal Fable, but it's such a bigger production at this point. Fable 3 is like playing a, Uncharted style game at some point. There's tons of cutscenes, tons of action and dialogue, and it becomes a much bigger spectacle of a game. The production value is just crazy through the roof. Like even the opening cinematic, we watched it the other night, and I'm sitting there like, dude, this is like a 5 to 8 minute cutscene of just following this chicken. It's not even your character. It's just kind of introducing you to the world. And this chicken kind of getting into all this trouble. It is crazy. And you start off in the third game completely differently. In Fable 1, you're a kid hanging out with your family. In Fable 2, you're a kid hanging out with your sister, who's your only family. In Fable 3, you're an adult. You're a prince and your brother is king, and your brother is basically a dictator, horrible king that the townspeople hate. You have a girlfriend that you are in love with and she loves you immediately. Like right off the bat, this game totally is different than Fable 1 and 2. And that's not a bad thing. I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I think that's actually really good because you don't want the same story. You don't want the same exact things. But man, do they put you in the trenches right away. So within the first, I'd say, 10 minutes of gameplay, you're introduced to your like girlfriend, fiance, or whatever. You're introduced to like your helper, advisor, and servant, and you're introduced to your brother. And your brother is just a massive jerk, just a huge, terrible king. And you are tasked with standing up for the townsfolk that are kind of like rebelling. You hear like whispers of factory worker because you're in the industrial age now. Fable 1 and 2 are like full-blown fantasy worlds. Fable 3 is industrial revolution, steampunk engines and all this stuff like steam engines and boats. And I don't think automobiles, but like you actually have pistols and guns instead of just crossbows. And so it is a lot more advanced technology, and the world has advanced in technology as well. So you are standing up for the townspeople, and your king is basically saying, all right, I'm going to teach you a lesson because I'm a terrible person. It's either you got to make a decision. Either these townspeople are going to die or your girlfriend dies. Pick which one. And you're tasked with this. And this is the thing that I immediately regretted as soon as I did it, because I'm trying to play the good guy. I know that my decision is going to matter in some way or form down the line. And so I chose the loftier path of let one person take the fall and save the rest. And so I let my girlfriend die. It's kind of weird, number one, because like that just sucks. I would never do that. I would always choose the girlfriend over the townspeople. Like, I don't have any loyalty to these townspeople, but in the game, I know that we're trying to fight the revolution of bad King Brother. So having the townspeople on my side, and they're going to remember that, that's going to be good later on in the gameplay. But I would never let my girlfriend die, especially if I know that she's going to show up, later on the game. She's going to be a helper or whatever. But I don't remember this game at all, pretty much, except for like a couple locations. That's pretty much all I remember. So I started playing this game. I made the decision to let my girlfriend die. And it's funny because my wife was like, oh, I can't believe you did that. And then there's no talk about it at all. For the rest of as far as I played probably about 4 hours or so of the game, and basically zero notifications, zero talking about this girl being executed. That was the love of my life or whatever. Like, I don't even know her name. It's really, really bizarre and weird, because you would think that that's kind of like a main character, or a character that's special to the main character, so they would have some sort of disappointment or regret or grief, like some sort of emotion. Just blank slate the entire time. So it's pretty interesting. I really do enjoy it. The graphics are phenomenal, especially because this is a PC game. So I'm able to crank up the res to 4K. It looks beautiful. There's not that weird bloom or ghosting or anything like that. It looks like a nice, fairly modern-ish type of game. Older modern game. The one thing is, this was an era of PC gaming that was really terrible. This is before controller support was fully integrated. This is before Steam really took off. So you get this game was part of the Games for Windows Live experience. Games for Windows Live was in the era of Windows Vista and Windows 7 and 8. And this is where it just kind of went off the Windows. Yeah, no, this was Windows Vista era. And so with Windows Vista, man, dude, it just really ruined the whole Games for Live stuff. It's, again, that whole thing of this service doesn't exist anymore. They completely killed the servers. The game's unplayable without some sort of fix that modders had to fix. So I had to I installed the game off of Steam because I own it. I have all the DLC installed, but there's no way to activate it. So I had to go online, find some weird forum post from like 13 years ago, and download this weird, crazy file that allows me to play the game that I own and install the DLC that I already own and have it unlock and activate, quote unquote, activate. So it's like this weird, just roundabout way of being able to play the thing that I already own. And this is where a lot of people would go, that's the problem with digital. Yeah, that's the problem with network. Like, that's the problem with internet connection stuff being infused into modern games. That's not a digital versus physical attribute. So It's not that exactly. I'll just say that. The game itself is super fun. I'm, just a handful of hours into it. I'm not super far, but I remember the big reason why I did drop it is because about a third of the way through the game, you play the game as normal Fable, but then, and spoiler alert, but this is what I remember from playing a quarter of the game, you become king very quickly, and you are a ruler, and you start having to manage all these promises that you've made all the townspeople and followers that you build up over the course of the beginning of the game so that you can overthrow your brother. And then you have to manage the budget of the kingdom as well. I remember as far as I remember, there's like a big gold room that you have to walk around and manage. And then the menu system's totally different too. Like you hit the start button, there's no main menu, there's no inventory menu. It's this world, this like subconscious mind world that you transport yourself to, and your butler is there, and you walk around this 3D environment to go to the clothing menu, and you walk around like a wardrobe and you can change out outfits. You walk into another room and it's your weapon inventory management system. Like it's all these weird, crazy things, even to get to an actual menu to say, quit the game or go into games for Windows Live settings or audio or video settings. You actually hit start, you get into this hub world, and then you walk to a mural on the wall that has a bunch of gears, like a settings, right? And then you hit that, and then a menu pops up. So you actually have to do work just to quit out of the game. Like there's 4 steps to quit out of the game instead of pushing start, going down to quit, hitting A. Like you hit start, you walk around this world, you go to the mural, you hit A, you scroll through the menu system, you select quit, and then you're out. It's just bizarre, but in a really cool way. I really like it. I dig it. It's such an interesting type of menu system. And if you're watching the video version of the podcast, the hub world is actually on screen right now, and it is pretty interesting. So yeah, it's bizarre, but in such a fun, unique way that, again, we just don't get this type of creativity anymore. I've been battling a lot online over the last couple of days, just going, man, what video game industry is in such a bad, terrible place right now. There are pockets of amazing stuff, but on the whole, man, the video game industry, AAA, big publisher games, we're in such dire straits. The industry is crumbling. It's taking a while. It's taking longer than it should. And I think there's definitely some big reasons I'm not going to get into. But man, it's exhausting seeing all this stuff continually happen, nothing changing, nothing, going the way it should, and just having to force ourselves to go, well, if the big publishers aren't going to make the games that we like, the indies are. But the indies are, small, inexperienced, and just don't have, the proper funding to create these larger game experiences that we had for 20, 30, 40 years in gaming. And now we're just getting these garbage experiences. But the indies are making them, but they're not that great. I've talked about it on the podcast a ton. Most indie developers are just creating the exact same games that they want other big publishers to make, but they're not advancing it at all. So there's a game called Fur Squadron Phoenix, and it's basically Star Fox. There's a game called The Adventures of Simon Quest Transylvania instead of Castlevania. The Adventures of Simon Quest. It's Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest, but just with a name change, right? And that's all it is. It is just Castlevania 2 with a modern coat of paint. So it's a bizarre thing. And I didn't mean to kind of get on a rant there about it, but yeah. But man, I'm having a blast with Fable 3. I'm really excited to see where it goes and finish the game so I can say, yep, I've played and finished Fable 3 now, because I'm so bummed that I never did, because it's a really fun game so far. So I really dig it. All right. Well, that's kind of going to be what. Oh, there's another game. There is one more game that I did want to talk about before we kind of wrap everything up, which is this game called Cairn. Cairn, or Cairn, however you pronounce it. And even my wife was like, what is the name of this game when I started playing it? It's a mountain climbing or rock climbing game. I played the demo of it last month, a handful of weeks before the game came out. And I was like, dude, this is really cool. So I contacted the developer and started kind of seeing if I could get a copy of it. Unfortunately, I didn't. But man, this is an indie game that is going to be in the Game of the Year discussions. I'm not a big fan of declaring a Game of the Year immediately in January of the year, right? But I will definitely say this is a very unique game, a very interesting game, a very beautiful game, visually anyways, not storyline wise. But it is incredible. It's a very well-made game, and it definitely will be, if not on my list, because I don't know what the year is really going to hold, because like the last couple of years of gaming, I've been very wrong about a few things. Like I'll fully admit that I've been very wrong about last year being a dry year. 2004 was definitely a pretty dry year. Most things considered, there was like a handful at the very beginning, handful at the very end. Everything else in between was garbage. But with 2025, I went, man, there was just so many games that came out that I didn't even get to play that were really, really, lauded as, the best of the best, like Expedition 33. Was that Claire Obscura Expedition 33? Again, garbage name. One of the worst names of all time. Tied with the Orange Box. It's such a bad name. But I want to get back on track. Sorry. Cairn, I'm definitely going to be like, dude, this is going to be at least talked about at the end of the year for sure, if not in the actual Game of the Year list. So Cairn, you play as, of course, and I'm just going to get this right out of the way, this is a full-on DEI game. You play as a lesbian called Ava, who's in a lesbian relationship with another lesbian. And you're a terrible person. My wife has been watching me play this game, and every time a cutscene happens where she's climbing her rock, hold on. Excuse me, I had to sneeze there. She's climbing this mountain on her own. She's completely alone. And her little climbing robot that attaches to the side of the rock and kind of feeds her a little bit of rope and pittons that she can stick in so that into the side of the mountain, so it's kind of like a rest point. The robot actually has like a messaging system and will play like little audio messages from her family and friends. And everyone's like, "Hey, happy birthday. We don't know why you're not here. Kind of sucks that you're not here, but you're out climbing that mountain. Hopefully you don't die." And then her lesbian lover is like, "Hey, I love you because we're lesbians, and just wanted to say that our cat is dying. I wish you were here for that because our cat's dying, and you really should feel bad about it because you're a terrible person." And then couple days later, "Hey, our cat died and you weren't here because you're a terrible lesbian person." It's just like, it compounds in the story because, again, you can tell this is like a, trying to make that type of person seem like a very good person, and it's the world that's against them. No, the person is terrible. Everyone is saying, "Please don't do this. Please talk to us. Please don't just go off on your own and die on a mountain. We love you. Please come back." And you're just like, "Nah, screw that. I'm going to do whatever I want." So you're just a crappy person. And I hate that because the game itself is really fun, but your main character, the character you play as, you just go, I hope you fall off the cliff and die. I hope you fall off the highest peak. I hope you get right to the very end and you just plummet all the way down the mountain, hit every branch and single splinter and rock that you possibly can, because you suck. And that's the main character that you play as. And it's just like, wow, come on, man. So it's crazy. I haven't finished it yet. I think I'm about, maybe at this point, about 2.5, 3/3 of the way there. Over halfway, but not by much. It is a really fun game. The climbing mechanics are really fun. The whole survival aspect, because you have to make sure that you consume proper food. You have to bandage yourself up. You have to make sure you have proper equipment. You have to make sure that when you get to a save point, you check the weather, and you have to hunker down during extreme weather. If you're climbing and the weather changes really badly, you got to make sure that you have some sort of precaution. It is really well done. Just the story is complete garbage because your character is complete garbage. But man, I'm having a blast with it. I will say it is very frustrating in certain points. I haven't had too much of a hard time, but there have been about 3 or 4 points in the game where I'm like, this is impossible. I've just wasted 25, 30 minutes. Like last night, we were about to go to our Bible study. We had about 45 minutes left before we needed to leave. So I'm sitting there, I'm just kind of wasting time. I'm like, hey, I'll just play Karen. So I'm sitting there playing, and I'm at the base of this like really tall cylindrical rock formation that has a ladder bridge at the very top. It should take about maybe 10 minutes to climb this thing. I can't get up maybe, I'd say 8 feet before I fall to my death. I just kept dying over and over and over and over again, because it introduces this graphite, or I can't remember what, I think it's graphite. It's this really slippery, shiny, sparkly rock formation or color in the cylindrical rock formation that you can't drill a piton into. The pitons are, again, like there's like little save points or check mark points where if you're climbing, and you're all free climbing this entire thing, if you fall, if you have a piton, you'll, latch on and it will save you from falling to your death. But if you get to that graphite part, which most of the whole section that I'm trying to climb is covered in, you just can't do anything about that. So you got to figure it out. But you have to be fast, and you have to find proper ledges, and there's like none of that. And there's a handful of sections so far in the game where I'm like, dude, I've just wasted like 45 minutes of my life on this section. I've got nowhere. I can't do anything. This sucks. So it can be very, very frustrating. It's a game you have to put down and come back to quite often, or at least I do. But it's so enjoyable. Even right now, talking about it, I'm going, man, I can't wait to go back and play it. I cannot wait to start that again, because the gameplay is so fun. The graphics are cel shaded and very beautiful. And there's a photo mode, which is really cool. And the way that you navigate it is you find like little things like throughout the world. You find a lot of dead bodies. We actually, my wife and I were coming back home this evening, and right before we got home, we were talking about Karen, and she mentioned like, yeah, what is up with all the dead bodies and stuff? That's such a weird thing. I'm like, that's kind of how mountain climbing is. Like if you watch anything about mountain climbers, or especially Everest, dead bodies are totally a real thing that you just have to walk over. Like you see someone collapse and die in the snow, you ain't bringing them back down. You're not helping them out, because at that elevation, if you try and help someone who's dying, you will probably most likely die as well. So it's like this really weird, like self-preservation thing where you have to be very selfish, and it's just weird. So I thought that was really interesting. And you do definitely come across a lot of dead bodies throughout that gameplay. It's a very weird game because there are a couple of people too that you come across, like real life people in not real life, but alive people in that game that you can actually converse with, because it's a very lonely game. You're a lone mountain rock climber lady. But there is two characters that I've come across so far. One is in this really interesting shiny rock cave where there's these crystals. It's all these really bright yellow crystals. And this digger who's got this pickaxe, he's just chopping away and he's just lost his mind. He's a very strange individual. I can't remember the game off the top of my head, but there's this one game that like does this like whole crazy person. Red Dead Redemption. When you play Red Dead Redemption and you come across strangers, that's kind of what it reminded me of. The stranger missions where you come across a stranger and they're clearly bizarre. Like they're just straight up awkward, weird, mentally ill people. But for some reason or another, you help them out. That's kind of what that reminds me of. So I came across this like crystal digger guy who wanted to like mine out this crystal cave formation and is accusing me of stealing and all this stuff. And so you kind of back away slowly, go, okay, I'm going to be leaving now. And then you also find some other crystal cave digger guys that are all dead in the bottom of a well, like an empty well pit. And you're like, I think that guy killed them, right? Like you're finding all these little notes attached to their bodies or their journals strewn throughout the level and stuff like that. And you just kind of like piece little things together. It's really, really interesting. I loved it. So that's one character. And then the other character I've come across is another mountain climber. So as like about maybe an hour or so into the game, you come across this other man that he's a kind of a kid. This kid named Marco, and he's a very young person, and he's talking to you, and you're famous. Your character is famous. You're like a world famous rock climber person. You've been interviewed in rock climbing magazines since you were a kid. You were, rock climbing since you were a kid and blah, blah, blah. So you're super famous. And he's like, wow, I can't believe I'm meeting Ava. Like, this is great. And then you slowly realize he's infinitely better than you at everything. He's like flying up the mountain instantly, and you're struggling to get up like 8 feet of rock at the very base of the mountain. Like, Ava sucks. Marco is awesome. You should just be playing as Marco throughout the entire game. But it is really, really fun and interesting, and I do like the cutscenes with them. The writing, not bad, but not amazing. I'm not going to say the writing's great because, again, there's so much of that DEI stuff in there. I'm never going to praise stuff like that. But the interactions between Ava and Marco are really interesting. But again, it kind of starts falling apart. The part that I'm in, I just got to a cutscene where Marco is starting to lose his mind. He's getting space madness, basically, like mountain madness. Where he starts thinking Ava is trying to kill him and all this stuff, and like she's out to destroy him, and he keeps going, I'm not good enough, I should just go down the mountain. She's like, no, you can do it, you can persevere. And he's like, nah, you're crazy, you're trying to kill me, you're just making me think that I can do something that I can't. And that's the last cutscene that I saw. And so I go to bed, I wake up, and we're in our little bivouac tents, and Marco is just gone. So I have no idea where he is. I'm assuming he went up. I hope that he went up, and I hope that he gets to the top of the mountain, and at the end of the game, Marco and I hug, embrace, and kiss, and I realize I'm not a lesbian or whatever. But the game itself is so enjoyable and so fun and so frustrating. It's what a lot of people latch onto with what is the game series? Dark Souls. That whole, it's so hard, I have to overcome it, and when I overcome it, I feel amazing about it. I think that's what a lot of it is. So I'm cautiously optimistic about the final part of the game. the finality of being able to say I conquered this game, even though, man, it is getting really, really stinking tough. I've seen a lot of people are like, yeah, I put like 12 hours into it. And I'm like, I've put at least like 8 or 9 in this game at this point. Like I've played it for like a couple hours at a time, like pretty much every day since, our power came back on and stuff like that. So, even before, I think it was right before our power went out. I was playing it for like 3 or 4 hours, and then I put at least another 6 or 7 into it. So like I'm pretty far along, but I'm having such a hard time with it. So I'm seeing a lot of people like, oh, I beat it in 12 hours. I'm like, what level did you play? Like what game or easy difficulty are you playing on, man? Because medium or just normal, I guess, or whatever I'm playing on is very difficult. But Karen is a really cool game, and I'm very excited to finish it. And then that kind of concludes what I've been playing, off stream. On stream, I started for February's Game of the Month, Subnautica. Subnautica is one of my favorite games of all time. It is one of my go-tos for VR as well. It's one of my go-tos for early access because they did this early access just amazingly during the time period of 2014 to 2017 when it came out in 1.0 access. It also was a launch title for the Oculus Rift. I own the Steam version. I think I might own the original Oculus Rift version too, but the Steam PC version had native VR support. But this is early days of VR, launch VR, where the Oculus did not have motion controls. It did not have the Oculus Touch controls. It came with an Xbox controller. So the Xbox controller was the only way to play, and so you're just basically in VR, but you're playing with a controller. Well, after the game fully released, it became a real big hit for streamers and stuff like that over the years. And modders made a full-blown VR 6 degrees of DOF. I can't remember what DOF stands for. 6 degrees of freedom or movement or something like that, where basically you can use touch controls, motion controls, and have full 6 degrees of motion. So I installed that mod, I started playing it, and it was kind of just to play it because I was talking about it on stream the previous night, and I was like, man, I miss Subnautica. I should just go back to that. And so I started, and man, it was so much fun. I forgot how amazing Subnautica is. So I made it the Game of the Month for February. It's a short month. It's a game I'll probably not finish just because of life. And again, even today, I started streaming this podcast several hours ago and just things broke, audio broke. But it seems to be holding up over the last hour and 20 minutes or so. So that's good. But yeah, I'm just with a power outage, with, life, with, technical issues, streaming issues. I'm not saying I'm going to finish it. I'm just saying it's a game that I'll play throughout the month because I'm having a lot of fun with it. I want to get to the base building. I want to enjoy it because it's so much fun. And then I'm trying to think of what the last game is, which is, that's right, it's a World of Keflings. Now, number one, I've talked about Keflings a ton over the years because it is one of my favorite franchises in all of video games. It is my comfort game, my zen game. It is a game that I will always love forever and a day. And A World of Keflings came out, 2010, 2011 on the Xbox 360. It is the sequel to A World of Keflings. What's up, Nightmare? How are you doing? And I just fell in love with the series. Now, over the years, they created a couple more games. A World of Keflings was the second one. And then in 2019, they came out with A Handful of Keflings, which is the VR version. Now, I didn't know that they made a PC version of the first game, but I found it last year when A World of Keflings was announced for PC. They were finally bringing a World of Keflings out. And the reason why is because I streamed A Kingdom for Keflings, the first game, last March. I was like, man, I want to play Keflings. That's such a fun game. And I was having a kind of bad time in life. So, like, my wife's like, why don't you just play a good game that just always makes you feel good? I'm like, Keflings is that? I'll play that. So, over like 16 hours of playing through Kingdom of Keflings, I really, really enjoyed it. And I was immediately going to go into A World of Keflings. But it's another Xbox 360 like locked title. It's locked to the Xbox 360. So I started trying to play it, but I realized the emulated version is just really bad. I could probably try and I could try and bring the Xbox in here and like do all that stuff. I just don't want to. So I kind of put it on the back burner. And then a few months later, I found the Ninja Bee Discord or Kefling's Discord, where I started talking to the developers and going, oh, A World of Keflings is coming out on PC, on Steam. So I was like, dude, sign me up. Let me give this to me now. And I started like a couple of relationships with some of the developers, and dude, they're awesome. I love them because this is one of my favorite games of all time. So it was really fun to be able to know that that game came out, to be able to do the beta testing, see what's going on with it, and then have it come out, and then some of the DLC too, which was rad. So I played that last year. Unfortunately, I didn't stream it because that was back in October when the game came out. I think it was September, October, and the DLC came out. And that was just when like life was just crazy hectic with the puppies, all the puppies being born. So I just didn't have time to stream back a few months ago. So when a World of Keflings dropped their next DLC, this is called a Rockstar Challenge or Rockstar Challenge. And it is a weekly DLC update that gets added every week throughout all of 2026. So that means every week there's a little bit of something brand new in the game that I get to play. And I'm so stoked about it. I'm super happy. And this allows me to have kind of like a cool down, wind down period of the weekend. So I've decided that every Sunday, sorry, my voice has been doing that all week. Every Sunday, I'm going to stream A World of Keflings Rockstar, and we'll do the challenge. Now, one of the developers, Stay Bunny, he was telling me that some of the DLC, some of the Rockstar Challenge for the week is going to be a little bit smaller. Some of them are going to be a little bit bigger. So it might not hold my attention for an entire stream unless the stream is going to be like 15 minutes. And so I devised a plan. I said, all right, instead, what I'm going to do is I am going to have the Rockstar Challenge be the main focal point. And once that's done, and I feel like I've kind of done the weekly challenge, I don't want to clean up the land or anything like that. Then what I'm going to do is we're going to play a handful of Keflings, the VR version, baby. Because again, I played that when it came out. I haven't touched it since 2019. So I don't remember most of what that game is, other than it's Keflings in VR, which is like my favorite two things combined, all right? It's like chocolate and peanut butter. Like that's how I feel about a handful of Keflings. And it's funny because with both of the developers that I've talked to, they're both like, no one likes a handful of Keflings. You are the only person I've ever talked to that likes a handful of Keflings. I love VR and I love Keflings. What do you want from me, man? I will shout it from the mountaintops till the day I die. I want a handful of Keflings is one of the best games ever created on my tombstone, besides Pepperoni. So I'm super stoked about it. I'm super excited to be able to play the Rockstar Challenge and then go into a handful of Keflings. So that's kind of going to be, that's kind of going to be the Sunday night streams, the cool down streams of the week. I think it's a fun wind down for the weekend. And then scheduling just kind of like all over the place right now. it's a real big bummer. The power outage stuff was rough. The dog stuff was rough. All the stuff that's been going on in the last, I'd say 6 to 9 months of life has just been really, really hitting me hard. But I also feel very invigorated. I was talking to my wife about this last night when we were driving home from Bible study, that I do feel invigorated in certain aspects, but there are things that I'm going to be putting on the back burner. I feel like, not that I spread myself out too thin, but I feel like the things that I'm focusing on are being spread out too thin, that are not really important enough or warrant my full amount of time that I've been devoting. So I still got to figure out some of the scheduling stuff. Streams are just right now, number 1, when I feel like it. Number 2, when I have time. Number 3, hopefully every night. The podcast, man, I've been really, really trying hard to make it be on Sundays. Like, Sunday was always like my goal for Sunday afternoon. I'm going to record the podcast. Sunday night, we're doing Keflings. But over the course of the last literally like 3 months, every Sunday, something catastrophic happens to the point where I cannot be in here recording. Something just massively catastrophic to the point where something is broken that is unrepairable and unfixable. It's freezing to death. It's way too hot in the studio. We have to leave for like 7 hours. Like, just every Sunday, something bad happens to the point where I just cannot record the podcast. So that's why I'm recording it right now on a Friday night, because I was like, I am going to make this happen, because I even tried earlier this morning or this afternoon and just the audio stuff happened. So that was a big bummer, but looks like everything has been holding up pretty stinking good so far. I'm very, very happy. So yeah, that's kind of what the future holds for the immediate future of Game or Die. Number 1, I ain't going anywhere. I'm sticking to my guns. I am going to continue streaming. I'm going to continue on the podcast. I'm going to continue writing articles and reviews. I'm going to continue with the website. All this stuff I'm going to continue doing. So I'm not going anywhere. It's just that certain things are being put on the back burner. Certain things are going to be at a slower pace, and certain things are just going to be, on hiatus right now. Like, one of the big things is I loved doing the rock band streams. The Saturday night rock band streams were super fun. Those were like 4-hour rock concerts every Saturday night, and sometimes multiple times during the week too. But just number 1, viewership was just 0 for like 3 months straight. And then weather and the new studio and all this stuff. So I just put that on hiatus. But like, I sit here playing by myself and I'm having a good time. Every once in a while, I'll sit and play for like half an hour and go, man, I wish I was streaming this, because it's so stinking fun. So all that stuff that maybe is on hiatus right now or on the back burner, it will come back. But I'm just kind of trying to figure out a much more doable schedule, so that I don't get frustrated by going, man, I dropped the ball. I feel like crap. I feel terrible. I feel like I'm letting everyone down, which is really the biggest thing. Is I feel like I'm letting everyone down every time I'm not streaming. Every time something, article doesn't go up, or a review for a game, or I beat a game off stream or whatever. So yeah, it's just a whole mess of stuff. But man, I'm having a good time. I'm in a great place with video games for the most part. I've been playing a lot more than I have over the last 6 months or so, and I'm really, really enjoying what I'm playing. So yeah, that's, I think, gonna do it for tonight's podcast. Thank you guys so much for watching, listening, viewing, wherever you are on any stream. I will be starting to kind of archive these a little bit better, and also I'm going to try and focus on making sure that the viewership becomes a little bit bigger. We need the community to grow. So number 1, if you are a fan of the website or a fan of the channel, please share it. Whatever you can do. If you say, hey, this guy just got a cool, chill stream that, he just talks about video games, man. like share it with people who you think would like this brand of, gaming content. Because if you don't, there's no way that the community is going to grow. And I'm going to start doing a couple extra big things. But again, I just got to start small and kind of ramp it back up. But yeah, man, I'm super stoked. So I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of the night. And I hope you guys had a fun time with the stream. I don't know why my thing decided to go on lock there. Hold on a second. There we go. All right. So I think that's going to do it. Take care, everyone. God bless. And I'll see you on some streams probably tomorrow. Multiplayer Madness, again, on hiatus right now, but we'll be playing some Fallout 76 for sure, because I bought that. So that'll be really fun. Fallout's really big right now. And then Minecraft server is still up. It's up and running. You can jump into the Minecraft server whenever you want. All I ask is don't destroy anything for anyone else, because, that would be a big bummer. But we'll get back to a lot of, kind of the regular stuff soon. All right. That's going to do it for me. I'll see you guys later. Thanks for listening and watching. Bye-bye.